At first, it sounds simple. Make a list of colleges you will apply to. But then the questions start. Which colleges go on the list? Some people say safety, target, reach. Others say just follow the rankings until you get into one. You've got social media and constant advice, and they all seem to raise the stakes. The process starts to feel more urgent than it actually is. The reality is calmer and more human than that. College fit is not a single answer waiting to be discovered. It's a thoughtful process that unfolds over time. So tonight, we purposely slow this down. No checklist or formula, but real talk about what building a list of colleges that work for you actually means. To help with that conversation, I'm joined by someone who has spent decades thinking deeply about this exact question. Steve Antonoff has helped generations of students and families build college lists that make sense for who they are.
It's the College Talk Show. Tonight, how to build a college list that actually makes sense with special guest Dr. Steven Antonoff. And now, here's your host, Chris Bell.
My guest tonight is Dr. Steven Antonoff. Steve is an independent educational consultant, author, and one of the longtime thought leaders in our profession. He has spent decades working directly with students and families, and he's known for a deeply student-centered approach to college planning, thoughtful, humane, and grounded in real understanding rather than anxiety or hype. He's also the author of College Finder, College Match, and A Student of Colleges. Steve, you're also a friend and a mentor. Thank you for joining me here tonight on the College Talk Show.
And I feel the same about you, Chris. I appreciate your getting college information out to those who need it. So thank you for what you're doing.
My pleasure. Let's get into it. We're talking about sort of building college lists. When a student is just beginning to build a college list, what are the first things you want them to pay attention to?
You know, what you're really doing is you are constructing a group of schools, establishing a group of schools where you can be happy. You know, you're not etching the perfect wording for the 10 Commandments or anything of the sort, but rather you are creating a group of schools that where you can thrive. What I always feel, Chris, is when I start talking with a student about their college list, I don't want to start with where do you want to go to college. I want to start with who are you as a learner? Who are you as a person? Who are you as a community member? So I guess the place to start is self-observation, self-insight, asking questions such as what academic environment will bring out the best in you? Do you need professors who know your name? Do you want structure? Do you thrive with independence? Are you looking for a campus that feels like a village or a city or a laboratory or a launch pad or a stage? Those are the places I think where you can be most productive in starting to look for good fit colleges.
Amazing. Now, there's this side of families sometimes hear the phrase perfect match college. What do you think they usually misunderstand when they approach this term?
The problem with that is the term perfect. You know, there is no perfection in college admission, as there is really no perfection in other parts of life. What there are trade-offs and priorities and wise choices. So I think when families say the perfect college match, they feel like they have to know the whole universe of colleges before they can begin to start. And I think that's I think that's a mistake. A good college search in my mind is not a hunt for perfection, but rather an exercise in what I might call intelligent compromise. And that's what I think students ought to be thinking about as they try to reinterpret the term perfect college match into where can I be happy and what are some good choices for me.
I've heard you talk in the past. You've long expressed skepticism about college rankings. What gets lost when families start their search with college rankings?
Such a good question, and I'm glad you asked, and I'm glad to answer. What gets lost is that individual student. That's what gets lost.
Yes.
What gets lost besides that individual student is a healthy, non-toxic college search. I'm not against rankings, and I think it's appropriate to use them as one source of information. But I am very much against using them as wisdom. They're not wisdom. They are formulas. And formulas can measure lots of things. Mainly, it's measuring what the ranking people want the rankings to measure.
Yes.
So I've sometimes argued, Chris, that we don't rank churches. We rank everything out. We rank restaurants and toothbrushes and so forth and so on. But we don't rank churches because we feel like, how can you compare religions? How can you compare large church edifices to smaller? How can you compare one pastor or rabbi or priest to another? There's just too much complexity. My point always is that there is the same amount of complexity in colleges. And so to try to rank them, even if you try to put all of the liberal arts and sciences together and all of the, major national universities together, even if you do that, you're still not really focusing on anything that is really helpful in terms of finding that place where that student is going to be able to thrive. I encourage parents to read U.S. News, read some of the other. There are lists of value colleges. There are all kinds of lists. But just remember that these are, again, formulas. They're not intended to help that individual student find that right college.
How do you help students translate who they are into search criteria that are actually useful?
Again, a profound question. I think the most important thing here is to move students from vague adjectives to usable, measurable criteria. For example, if a student says to me, I want somewhere where I feel comfortable. Okay, that's understandable, but it's not yet actionable. It's not measurable. So that student has to try to translate those feelings into things that they can actually research. So does comfortable mean where professors are more accessible? If so, you can research that. Is it, does comfortable mean being near a big city? Well, again, that's measurable. We could go on and on.
Yeah.
Is the campus walkable and so forth and so on. What I think sometimes gets students in trouble in the search is that they're looking for a college that's cool or a college that's awesome. Well, neither of those are measurable. So the student has to think carefully. What does awesome mean? What does cool mean? And once they begin to say, well, awesome means big football games, or awesome means um, uh, really being able to get involved with intramurals, or if awesome means a great program in a particular subject or something like that, then you can really start to construct a good college list. Another thing that I think of when you ask that question is I make the distinction between a smart student and a scholarly student. A high GPA is great, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the student loves ideas. So when I'm talking to someone, regardless of what their GPA or SAT scores or ACT scores or anything else would be, what I'm wanting to know is how curious that student is. How self-propelled, how resilient, how excited by learning. Once I learn those things, then again I'm in a territory of measurable things that I can research and I can find out about.
Steve, your books, your 3 books, you've been diligent about revising them. On my set here, I have the new version of College Finder right here, and I've always appreciated your books, and I certainly have College Match as well as a student of colleges that I've read both cover to cover. What has changed in the college list building process over time?
Certainly, one of the things that has changed is something we've already talked about, and that is that the landscape of college planning is much noisier. There are many more sources, including my sources, more opinions, more rankings, and so forth. More deeply, what is occurring is that students are asking better questions, and so much of that is asking questions about what the students are like. Are they competitive or collaborative, and how easy is it to connect with faculty? What is the social energy of the place? I often think that it's wise for a student to think about what is the glue that holds that school together. Is it beer? Is it after school study groups? Is it football? What is it? So I think one of the things that has changed is that students are more willing to acknowledge the student body itself as being a important part of their search. If my books have done anything, my hope is that they're helping students see variables that they had not considered before. Are students more pre-professional? There are lists in the College Finder, for example, on good places for an introvert, or good places for flip-flop wear. Not that these lists are exclusive, or there are lots of places where an introvert can be happy, for example. My hope in putting that forward, putting the book forward, is that students will go through and think, gosh, I didn't really think about how I would fit in with the student body. I didn't really think about the difference between a school that's very exclusively liberal arts and sciences focused versus a school that is more career focused. So, so I think what's changed, students are willing to look at more options. I think they're willing to think about more variables, and to me, that's a good thing.
I think that's great advice. I love this book. It's entertaining. I don't know if you meant it to be entertaining, but it's hilarious.
Absolutely.
The expert's choice for colleges for hipsters. I flipped to
Okay, there you go.
colleges to students indifferent to sports, and there are hundreds. I mean, I don't know how many lists you have in here, but it's really fabulous.
Well, there are about 1,200
1,200
actually.
lists.
But that hipster one was written really basically for you,
Oh,
Chris.
yes,
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
So this list building, if they're building this list and it feels messy or unfinished, how should they interpret that?
I love the term messy. That's I haven't thought of it in this context, but it's really a good way to look at it. You know, if they think their list is messy or unfinished, they should interpret it as being normal. They should interpret it as, you know, this is part of decision making. Decision making is rarely neat all of the time. Sometimes families worry when their list is inconsistent. For example, if they have one a smaller liberal arts and sciences school and then one very large state university. I think that's a great sign. To me, it's not a sign that the list is messy. It's a sign that they've really thought about it and they can see themselves in both environments. And then once they get their acceptances, they can further refine and further determine what schools are right for them. So I think, you know, if you feel like your list is unfinished, slow down, look at the questions that you've been asking, look for patterns. Are there schools that keep surviving when you go over your list with your counselor? What keeps schools from being ruled out? What are the differences? The last thing I can think of in terms of responding to that question is that an unfinished list, it seems to me, is not a broken list. It's a thinking list. So confusion is not always a sign that you're lost. Sometimes it is a sign that you actually are really paying attention.
Steve, we're wrapping up. If people want to learn more from you, I will point them to your publications first and foremost, College Finder, College Match, and then if they're interested in the field, also a student of colleges. Beyond that, if they wanted to talk to you or learn more, how would they get in touch with you?
I'm at schoolbuff.com. That's SCHOOLBUFF, like two F's like in Frank.
Thank you for your time. It was a rich conversation. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Stick around. We'll be right back.
This episode is brought to you by Bell College Consulting. Visit bellcollegeconsulting.com to learn more.
That was an insightful, calm, deep conversation with Steve Antonoff. Isn't he great? Now it's the part of the show where I try to capture the key moments as a kind of summary of sorts. I call it Top Tips.
Top tips. Top tips. Kind of a summary, but we call it top tips. Top tips.
Top tips for building a college list that actually makes sense. Number 7, start with who you are. As a learner, as a person, as a community member, who are you? Number 6, college rankings pay attention to variables that matter to them. They don't pay attention to the individual student, and you should pay attention to variables that matter to you. Number 5, move from vague adjectives to usable, measurable criteria. Number 4, think about how you'd fit in with the student body. That's an important part of the process. Number 3, when evaluating a college, ask, what is the glue that holds a school together? Is it beer, study groups, football, broom ball? Number 2, an unfinished list is not a broken list, it's a thinking list. And the number 1 tip for building a college list that makes sense is confusion is not always a sign that you're lost. Sometimes it's a sign that you're paying attention. There you have it. That's the College Talk Show, all about building college lists. Thank you again to Steve Antonoff. And remember, college is awesome.